Entrepreneurship is hard, so let's fix that and dive into our heroes' journeys. This is Taking Flight, an entrepreneur's journey, and I'm Sarah Torville. Join me as we delve deep into the passions, expertise, and experiences of those already in flight. This show is sponsored by EO Atlanta. And here we go, 2023. I cannot believe we're moving into a brand new year. The year has started, and as entrepreneurs, we know how crazy that is. So I'm really exceptionally pleased to have our guest join us today, especially when we know this is the beginning of a crazy year ahead, hopefully a very positive year. And so I'm delighted. We have a strategic thinker joining us today, an entrepreneur, an award winner, a solid partner, and a team player, an EO Atlanta member who won an award as well for the 2020 State of Georgia Small Business Rockstar. Wow. A board member at Bright Futures Atlanta, CEO at Hatchworks, Brandon Powell.
Hi, thank you for having me on, Sarah. I really appreciate it. That reads pretty well. I'm not sure how accurate all of it is, especially the strategic part, but we'll go with it.
Very strategic. You've been very strategic to me, so I can actually attest to that. So well, let's get straight into it, Brandon. We always want to come out the gate strong. I'd love you to share with our listeners, with our viewers, what did you get right when you took your first flight into your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I typically get the question about what went wrong, since that list is very, very long. But in terms of getting right, I think one thing that I've seen a lot of my entrepreneur friends struggle with is when they had co-founders and how that relation, it's great at first because you have someone there right with you. But I think later on, I've seen a lot of different issues that entrepreneurs have. So I feel like now that I'm 6 years into my journey, one of the things that I got right was not having a co-founder, even though it obviously was more challenging to get the business off the ground doing it by myself. But I think now that the business is going and growing, I'm grateful that I don't have the co-founder side of that. And I think the second thing that I didn't realize it at the time that it was something I was getting right was that, and it was more because I was so scared to take the risk to leave a really good corporate job to go start my business, was that I already knew who my first 1 to 3 customers, one guaranteed, but also really had a high probability of who my second and my third customer were going to be. Mm-hmm. So once I launched the company, I was able to, have my first deal within the first 30 days and my next customer within the next 60 days. And I felt like that's the cash that I really needed since I bootstrapped the business to really help me get going. And so I think those two things, no co-founders, and then having those first few customers identified were something that really have helped me get the business off the ground.
Yeah, that's excellent. Two very strong points. So you mentioned no co-founder, which is, obviously that's proven to be really a good strategy for you. But who are or were your co-pilots on this journey, Brandon?
Well, yeah, it's a lonely journey, and I have, obviously have a lot of people to thank for where I'm at. But I have to go with my mom in my EO group. But my mom, she was a single mom that raised me and my sister. And I actually started, kind of my entrepreneurial journey really young, just hustling, mowing lawns and figuring out whatever I had to do so I could just, buy the clothes that all the other kids had. And my, I didn't realize what I was learning then, right? But my mom was really teaching me a lot in the fact that she couldn't give me everything that I wanted, even though she wanted to. And so I had to earn it, and I had to figure out a way. And if I couldn't figure out a way to do it, then I wasn't going to get it. And so she's stood by me. She still thinks it was crazy that I left a corporate job to go take this chance. But regardless of how crazy she thought it was, she still stood by me. She believed in me. Every time she's heard about all the challenges I've had with the business from the start and all the successes, and she's been right beside me on that journey, and I'm really grateful for that. And I would say the last 3 years since I've been in an EO and EO forum, man, my group, my forum that I've been with, I have so much gratitude for them. And it's not even the X's and O's of business that I'm thankful for. It's the psychological part. It's having others that are going through the same things mentally, right? Yeah. And taxing, trying to balance your family and your kids and then this business. And at the end of the day, with all of us in the room, it starts and stops with each of us, right? There's no one to just hand it off to. And I got so much stability from them in terms of, the kind of the psychological aspect of trying to be an entrepreneur and balance everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. It's funny. Most people which we have on the show say the same about their EO group, but they've never spoken about it from the psychological standpoint. And it may have been that they meant to, but you actually stating it that way, I think is really, really just a testament. And obviously I'm not here to plug EO, but it is a testament to the fact that you have people going through a similar journey. Because it does get lonely. Like you said at the very start, it can get very lonely. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, but and don't get me wrong, EO has taught me a ton on X's and O's as well. But at the end of the day, I get that also from other service, from different things that I'm involved in and business school and those types of things. But I still think they people, the mindset, right? I still think that entrepreneurship is 90% plus mindset, right? Of art. And having them backing you on the mindset side, I think, pays huge dividends. They're my tribe, as I would put it.
Yeah, that's really great. So what is a challenge you and your team had to solve recently?
Well, there's always some challenge. I would say a big challenge, though, that I think a lot of entrepreneurs face is cash. And I know cash is king and all of these things. But for us, we scaled like crazy the first 5 years. And then COVID had a big impact to our business. So we generated a lot of cash in our business that I left in the business. But 2021 was a painful year. Even though COVID started in 2020, 2021 caused us to burn through millions of dollars in cash, just trying to pull through it. I didn't want to lay off employees, and I had lost some contracts. And so then last year in 2022, we started to scale back again, started to grow, but we burn our cash. So now we've got, one bad year on our record out of 6. And we're going to banks trying to get cash to grow the business. That was a major challenge for us basically going into this year that we had to tackle in Q4 to set ourselves up for success in 2023.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, some big challenges which you're working on, and I'm sure you're going to figure it out. I know you are, Brandon. But cash is king. You're right, and it definitely causes challenges when there's a lack of it. So how are things now though? Like where are you now with going through that? Is that still happening?
So I don't want to jinx anything, but I got a term sheet from a bank. I went to probably 10 banks. And I'm hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, we'll have this thing finalized. But I'm in underwriting right now, multi-million-dollar line of credit that I've been working on for literally about 6 months, trying to get this in place. And so, knock on wood, I don't jinx it here. But
you're not going to jinx it. This is a positive environment. Very positive. I'm touching lots of wood around me right now. There we go. So for entrepreneurs who may be going through something similar, what is a piece of advice that you can offer others right now?
Well, I've learned a lot on this cash thing, right? It's when you start the business, yes, you have a struggle for cash, and there's different advice I would give there. But then scaling cash, fractional CFO was my number one thing. I brought in a fractional CFO about 9 months ago to help me as I was getting back on track last year. And when it came time to try to find cash, the first time I did this when I started the business 5 years ago, it was me, like, I don't know where to get money. So I tried like factoring invoices and line of credit against my house. How crazy is that? I would have lost the house and the business. But having a CFO and someone, even in a fractional basis, he was able to reach out to 10 banks that he'd done business with over the last 30 years of being a CFO, and they trust him. Even if they don't know Hatchworks, they trust him. So he got me to the table with literally, I mean, 2 of them said they weren't interested just based on initial, but in front of 8 banks, we went to underwriting with a couple. And so you have to cast a really wide net is the first thing. So I think having the fractional CFO helps you cast the net. The second thing he's done for me is my books are clean. So even if the numbers are, you might have had a down year and had a lot of growth, he's able to explain the numbers in a way that a bank wants to hear, which is different than the way that an investor wants to hear,
Right.
or the way that, maybe you're selling someone on the business, it's different. A bank has almost a different language that's very much rooted in, different metrics. I've heard him talk to the banks. He definitely spends it differently than how I would talk to the bank. And I've just been listening, and that's how I've learned. So I think, having those books clean, having that fractional CFO, and I think also having multiple options for how you're going to do it, not just banks. So I went to 8 banks because at this point I need, enough in the multiple millions to scale that a bank was kind of my best option. But I'll tell you this, my last option is equity. Obviously, I've got people sitting there, angel investors, private equity that would, love to buy shares, but obviously at a big discount.
Yeah.
I don't want to leverage that unless that's my last option. And I think just looking at other options, whether it's PE-backed lending, where you're not giving up equity. I mean, factoring, I would probably even do factoring again, just which means you're selling your invoices for percent at the top. I would probably do anything possible not to have to give up equity in order to get the cash that I need to grow the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And why is that? Is that because later on, you got to pay it back and you're losing your stake? Or what are the reasons for that?
So to me, I think when you're desperate and you're in a corner, right? They say the best time to get cash is when you don't really need it.
Yeah.
And I think one of those reasons is many times your last option is selling equity. And if you get that cornered in, you're going to have to give up equity. And then they're going to pay such a low valuation when they have you in the corner because they know that. But think about 3 years from now. And you've given up 10%, 15% of your business, and now you're at a valuation or a multiple that's 10 times where you are right now. I think a lot of people look back and they're like, hey, I don't think I would have done that thing the same. So I've heard that message from other entrepreneurs. And so I'm not saying there's good money and there's bad money. And I'm not saying taking money is a bad thing. Just for me, I want to make sure that I have as much of the shares as possible as we get further down the line, so that I can make the best decision for my employees and for my company. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. So favorite book right now, is there one, Brandon? Is there something you've gone to recently, which has just been a blessing to help you through this? Or
yeah, I'm using Making Big Happen, that model. So the Mark Moses book has been really, I've read it 3 or 4 times. We're implementing that model in our business. So that's the Making Big Happen model. It's focused around HOTS. It's very similar to WIG. I used to do Scale Up. And have decided that, this Making Big Happen model focuses us, on just 2 or 3 big things that we want to make happen. Kind of backs us down from 3 years to 2 years to 1 year to a quarter. And that's what we've been rolling out. We started it in Q4, and now we're rolling it out this year. And so I've been pushing the book with my leadership team, and I have a coach that's helping me, a CEO coach, with that model. We've been rolling that out across the business, and I love how tactical the book is, and like, these are the things that you need to do to execute on this. It's not just theory. It's very tactical things, like you do this on a weekly basis, this on a monthly basis, this on a quarterly, this on a yearly, this every couple of years.
Yeah, no, that's great. Fantastic recommendation. So what excites you about the future? What does your future of flight look like?
So there's a couple of things that I'm excited about. In my business, where we provide nearshore agile software teams. So we provide US and nearshore integrated teams. And nearshore just means we've got engineers down in Latin America, but everybody's in the same time zone. We're creating hundreds of jobs in second and third world countries. Most of our clients are all US large corporations. So we're essentially taking money and, charging customers in the US and routing that money to second and third world countries, creating very high-end jobs in those countries. And these are countries where, poverty is at a very high rate. And where the jobs that we're creating around engineering are, the best that you can do in the country. And that motivates me on a daily basis. It's like every time we sell a deal, and it's, we need 5 different teams that we're providing. Some are in the US, some are going to be in LATAM. I know immediately that we're creating opportunities for people. That excites me. The other thing on the journey is I know where we're going. I know exactly where I want to be in 3 years. We're focused on a 9-figure exit. That's one of the things that the Make Big Happen, they've got tons and tons of testimonials around people who followed this system and push themselves, and this 9-figure exit is kind of a target and goal that's very achievable with it. And that's where, that's where we're headed. And I feel like I have a plan to get there, versus in the past, kind of, I had a hope that this is where I wanted to go, but I didn't have that super tactical plan to say, all right, this is what I have to do this year, this is what I have to do next year, and this is what I have to do in year 3 if I'm going to hit that overall goal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great, fantastic. That is very exciting. I'd love to hear that. So who are you? Tell me a little bit about you, Brandon, in terms of like, where you grew up, like what are those key milestones about who you are?
Yeah, I mean, I was Georgia, born and raised. For me, a big event in my life was obviously my dad leaving the picture when I was young at 4 years old. And so my mom, raised my sister, and I have a sister also lives in Georgia, who's a couple years younger than me. And, for me, it is all about, growing up in sports, and that was kind of my outlet. I was very competitive in track and cross country, and always wanted to win. And I think that was instilled in me just at a young age with the kind of the way I was raised. And for me, what's always driven me, went on to college and got very interested in technology. Yeah. And like, I'm not an engineer at all, so I don't even know how to code, but I'm always interested in solving problems. And that started probably in early high school, where I started to see like the first cell phones and that kind of stuff come out. And I was just like, wow, you can make life way easier with technology, versus seeing it as like a bad thing. Yeah. I kept seeing like, wow, that works better with technology, and that works better with technology. And so for me, when I went to college, I went to UGA for undergrad. It became just really like this so easy for me on the tech side. Everything else was very hard. Terrible at English, terrible at history and everything else. But the business stuff and the technology, so I was like, I love this. Yeah. This is what I want to do with my career and with my life is get in tech. So I spent about the first 15 years in consulting, so all on the tech side, solving problems for different clients, before I eventually decided to go and launch Hatchworks, and obviously helping other clients, modernize their technology and solve those problems. But that's me. I mean, I've just been still competitive to this day, just like I was in high school and in college, but just in a different.
That's good. That's great. What about Jersey Mike subs?
Oh man, we're gonna go there.
Mention it. I'm like,
we're gonna go there. Okay, so this is funny. So I was like mid-20s maybe. And I was thinking about I was working in consulting, and I was thinking about going back and getting an MBA. And then I was like, it'd be really cool to own a bar or a club. And I was like, in my 20s. And I think that would be great. And I don't know anything about the restaurant industry whatsoever, or the club business. And so I was looking at all these bars and restaurants, and I came across this sub shop. And it was terrible. Like, I mean, like in terms of like the food was, but it was dirty and all. So I'm like, I'm gonna try this. This is gonna be like a learning experience. So I bought this Jersey Mike's, the one close to Emory, and it was I didn't know how to read a P&L at the time, and so P&L said it was making 40,000 in profit, but it was really losing 40,000 in case. So I do this thing, and I'm like working in the Jersey Mike's at night on the weekend. Oh, it was awful. I know nothing about food costs or anything. So it was like this, this MBA. I got this MBA like without getting a degree from buying a Jersey Mike's. And then I bought one, and then I realized like, well, how the hell do you get out of this thing? Because no one wants to buy a restaurant with a 5-year lease. So then I had to buy another one. So I bought another one. And this time I knew how to read the P&L, and I got a good deal on the second one. And that way I could pay the manager to run these things. And then I bought a third one. And finally I figured out the only way I'm getting out of this is to sell them to the manager. So I did.
Good story. Oh my God.
The overarching lesson here was do not get into a business unless you have an exit strategy.
Yeah. Aha. There we go. So to this very day, do you like Jersey Mike subs? I've
never been back in one since.
Never been. That is so good. I love that story. Okay. Very cool. Well, so what problem do you solve right now Brandon, like, I do love the fact, like you say, you're really helping and enabling people, second and third world countries. So what are these amazing teams of people doing? Like, what are they solving?
Yeah, the main thing we're focused on, like, there's a global talent shortage in technology, right? So
Yeah.
anything with engineering, whether it's software, data, cloud, all companies are having to modernize their technology, right? Because they need to get leaner, they need to get more efficient.
Yeah.
And so these agile teams that we provide, they're building software, they're implementing data products. And the only difference between us and just a normal US-based company is that we're able to provide it integrated. So we're using, people in the same time zone, but also people local. So if we have we have 50 people in Atlanta, but then behind that, 150 people in LATAM that are helping back that up.
Right.
Our typical client has a project, they can't find enough talent, or they don't have the expertise to do it themselves. But since the pandemic hit, I've seen more and more clients that are just challenged with finding the right people and talent to be able to do it. Yes, some on the expertise side, but more and more companies have a lot of work to do around their technology modernization projects, but they just don't have enough talent to do it. And they can't get in, in the US, our talent shortage for tech is even higher, right? Even though there's been layoffs and stuff, all those people should easily be able to find, everyone should be able to bounce back in a job. And so, just the global talent market around tech is never going to be sufficient for the demand.
Right. Wow. Okay. Very good. That's wonderful. So I love this next question. If you were to do this all again, this is our introspection question, Brandon. If you were to do this all again, would you do it all over again?
I think this is how I think this is how crazy I am. I didn't even flinch. I was like, absolutely.
So you wouldn't do Jersey Mike's again, but you're
I
going to do
wouldn't do Jersey Mike's again. But in terms of Hatchworks, I wouldn't. I've learned more in the last. Here's the main reason why I would do it again. Not because of some of the pain and all the ups and downs, because that's hard and that's probably taken some years off my life. But what I've learned in 6 years is more than I thought I would learn in a lifetime. Wow. Literally, like the 6 years of, I could work in corporate. I had a really good job at AT&T, an executive position there, and I learned a lot from all kinds of sides. But in terms of, until you're accountable for all of these different things and just have to figure it out, you learn. And like, learning to me is what drives me. I'm a lifelong learner, and I can't think of any other way that I would have learned this much than to have gone off on my own and cut the parachute, and parachute being the corporate job, and being forced to go and figure this out. So that's the main reason that I didn't hesitate on on that question.
No, you didn't at all. I love that. Great. So outside of work, Brandon, what do you do? I'm curious, like, what kind of things do you do for fun? I know you have a young child, so that you're probably very busy at home as well, and you're working a lot. So
I think fun changed for me this last year. I have 11-month-old daughter, and that's my first child. So I had her late in life, and she's really been the focus, the last year, and figuring out this whole daddying deal while you're trying to run your business. But I wouldn't trade that for anything. But still, the things that I love, I spend a lot of time outside. I love to surf. I love to ski. I have been, for me, working out is a stress reliever that I am just like, some people get hangry when they're hungry. I get angry when I don't go, when I don't do something like active to be able to let go. And then the other thing that I've been working on now for over a year in my spare time is trying to speak Spanish, and it's just killing me. I have all these employees that are bilingual, and I'm trying my best to get there. I travel and see them, and it's just a struggle. So Spanish has been a big thing for me. And then I do love to travel. I just over the holidays, I went to Oaxaca, Mexico, and Mexico City, because I love to eat, and they have amazing food and wine down there, and mezcal, and
lovely.
I just ate for a week straight, basically.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. So to learn Spanish, what are you doing? Because I mean, I'm doing Duolingo right now for French, and I find it as frustrating. I mean, I'm not working every day with French people, but I like to travel to France a lot. and my language gets better and better, but I have to drink more for it to get better and better. So I'm trying to do it just by actually doing Duolingo every day. Well, what are you doing? How are you trying to do that?
So I did Duolingo. I've been that on that app for 2 years, and it just was not getting better. And I finally went to this.
Not getting better? You said it's not? Oh.
No, it does. It's not getting better because the conversational piece of it. So I went to this app called Preply. It's a platform,
Right.
and it pairs you up with a native speaker. So, and it's only like, for me, it's like my teacher is in Mexico, and I think it's like $16 an hour, but it's a live class, so it's catered to me, right? And we meet twice a week, and there's curriculum, and then she can go at my pace, or if I can go faster, then it's all catered to the pace that I go to, and she knows how bad I am at certain things and can kind of focus in on those areas. And so I really like the personalized experience of it. And I would say in the maybe 2 months since I've been working with her, I've gotten way better than in the 2 years of using
Duolingo.
Yeah.
So how do you spell Preply? Is
it
PLI?
Yeah, PREPLY.
PREPLY. Okay. I've never heard of that. Well, I like my Duolingo. I think I'm doing good, but that's going to be.
I tried Babbel too. That didn't work either.
No. Okay, but Preply is the elevated model. Okay, for anybody wanting to learn a language, you need to try that. So that's great. You do a lot. I love the fact you got all these outside interests. And I was trying to come up with a term that rather than hangry, how do you add exercise to angry? Didn't come up with it yet, but I'm going to think about that, Brandon.
Okay.
Because it's so true. So where can people find you? Tell me, how can they connect with you?
On LinkedIn, Brandon Christopher Powell, and that's the main. And I'm on Facebook as well, but LinkedIn is my main kind of my platform. And I've tried to post very regularly on things like culture and entrepreneurship and agile teams. And so I've been very focused on LinkedIn and trying to build the audience there.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Okay. Well, thank you, Brandon, for joining us today. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
You're really welcome. Thank you to our audience. If you learned something today or you laughed, please tell someone about this podcast, Entrepreneur's Flight. Thank you again, Brandon. It's been another very exciting episode of EO Atlanta's Taking Flight, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you all again next time. And so that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at takingflight.live. For more information about EO Atlanta, visit eoatlanta.org. Special thanks to the following sponsors: